This moment shocked a lot of fans. Reigning world champion and Tour de France yellow jersey Tadej Pogacar being visibly irritated and shoving Visma Lease Bike's Matteo Jorgenson during a tense feed zone scuffle. And just a couple of days later, after Bastille Days Stage 10, Pogacar seemed to take aim at Jorgenson again, calling Visma's tactics annoying and responding himself to Matteo's attacks. But this isn't the first time the two have clashed, and it might not be the last either. So from spicy quotes to tense moments on the road, what's really going on with Tadej Pogacar and Matteo Jorgenson? Let's break it down and have a look. All right, so first let's have a look at the clip itself so we can see what everybody's talking about. So if you haven't already seen this, it was on the stage itself. But yeah, here we go. It looks like Pog's kind of moving across to the right-hand side of the road. Jorgenson's sort of coming alongside him. Pog goes to move across, and then boom, he sort of pushes Jorgenson out of the way. So Jorgenson stops him getting to his soigneur and sort of gets his bottle instead. But it looks like on the slow-mo here that Jorgenson, I think, loses his bottle as well. So you can see sort of Pog kind of gives the intention quite early to move across. And we can see that Wout is the one that's just ahead of Jorgenson from the looks of that helmet. Pog's moving to cross the right-hand side of the road. He goes to sort of reach out for his soigneur. Jorgenson's there, he doesn't want to cede any space. Jorgenson goes to take his bottle, but it looks like he drops it as well, doesn't he? Right, so yeah, neither of them get a bottle. They're both quite annoyed about that. As I mentioned, that kind of gathered some attention online from people who were curious as to sort of what the backstory was here. And luckily for us, they were asked about it straight after the stage by the world's press waiting to make something out of the controversy. So let's have a look at both of their interviews, see what they've got to say about this situation for themselves. And personally, I don't think Matteo likes Pog, and I think that kind of comes across whenever he's asked about him in interviews, but that's just my take. I could be wrong. But let's see what Jorgenson says. I don't think he's particularly pleased about being asked these questions.
At one stage in a feed zone, you were going for a bottle, and it looked as though Pogacar's arm was outstretched, and this led to you missing the bottle. What happened?
I don't need to comment publicly, I think, but yeah.
Right, so did you hear that? He said, I don't need to comment publicly about that. Well, is that not why you were here, to be asked interviews about things that happened during the race? You can tell instantly he's not happy, right? I don't think this guy likes Pog at all, but let's see what else he says.
I missed a bottle.
We'll leave it at that.
I missed a bottle, he says. And then Daniel Freebay says, should we leave it at that? And he just nods. I mean, you can tell he's not happy about it, right? I'm sure these things happen in racing all the time, but I don't think Matteo can hide his dislike for Pog. I've thought it before in interviews that he said. And that smile, you know, he's kind of saying there he's not happy, isn't he? So he's probably annoyed that he's being asked about this in the first place, and the fact that Pog meant that he didn't get his bottle. Let's see if Pog is anywhere near as bothered as Matteo.
There was a pit zone, and we were riding one line. I showed intention to go to for my bottle, for my soigneur was like 20 meters after Visma, but they decided to pass us on the right side. So if I wanted to take a bottle, I could not do anything else than give him a little bit push so I could catch my bottle.
So you can tell there from his smile there, he's like, I give him a little bit of a push. I don't think Pog cares. I don't think Pog's bothered at all by this. I think he's just one of those things. I think he probably thinks Matteo's like an annoying little brother, right? He's just not even worth his annoyance. But Pog always does that, right? So if he thinks he's got position in the peloton, he's really good at just sort of taking that position. And look, he's super respected in the group, isn't he? In the peloton, people usually just sort of cede their ground and let Pog take the spot. But there's no way Jorgenson was going to do that, right? He knows he's got to get the bottles from the soigneur. Pog's like Visma and Jonas's main rival. He's not just going to move out of the way for Pog needlessly. And Pog's basically saying the opposite, right? Which is you should move out of the way because I've signalled to that side of the road. I'm the yellow jersey. I want my bottles. What else has Pog got to say?
From me, it was normal, but I don't know what was their intention. But they do this a lot of times, coming in front of you when it's pit zone, like if they are the only one having the bottles there.
So he said, I don't know what their intentions are, but they do this a lot of times. They're always there, taking the spot, moving in the way. So he's basically saying, you do this all the time. I'm not moving out of the way anymore. You guys need to give me a bit of respect. I'm the yellow jersey.
So yeah, sometimes you have to be patient and stay on the wheel when you're taking the balls and pay respect to everybody.
That's a last little interesting line there, isn't it, about respect? Is he kind of saying there he doesn't think he gets the respect he deserves from Jorgenson and Visma? Kind of sounds like it. And as I say, this one's caused quite a lot of controversy online. A lot of people think different things. A lot of people think that Pog had the right of way, being the yellow jersey, signalling to the right-hand side of the road. Others think that it was Jorgenson that shouldn't have ceded ground because he was already in that position, and what was he supposed to do? Where could he have gone? Who knows? I mean, realistically, the truth is probably somewhere a little bit in the middle. It's probably a bit of both guys' fault. It's just a racing incident, I would assume. But so on its own in isolation, maybe nothing too controversial there. That being said, it's not the first time, and it also wasn't the last time something cropped up between these two. But that's not it, because on stage 10 of the Tour de France for Bastille Day, we saw Visma putting the hurt on UAE pretty much the whole time. Taking advantage of the fact that UAE's team is not at full strength at the minute, they put the pace on towards the end especially. And Visma rolled attacks with Sepp Kuss and Matteo Jorgenson off the front to try and force UAE and Tadej to do some extra work. And it was an interesting one because when Kuss attacked, Pog was happy to put his domestiques, Narvaez, Yates on the front to try and pull that gap back. He didn't respond himself. But when Matteo attacked slightly later on, Pog launched it instantly. There was no hesitation. He was out the saddle, straight onto Jorgenson's wheel. He did not let him get a single meter. Sure, Matteo is only a couple of minutes down on GC, but once we get to the high mountains, is he really going to be that big of a concern for Pog? The Visma Lisa Bike 2-up strategy that they used with Roglic and Vingegaard on Granon probably doesn't work the same way with Jorgenson, at least because Jorgenson doesn't really have the sort of punch to do those rolling attacks like Roglic and Vingegaard do. And it might be that Pog just wanted to show Jorgenson who was boss after that spat a couple of days ago. And especially when we look at some of the quotes from Pog himself after that stage, when he said that Visma were annoying with all the attacks. The goal was for Visma not to attack us or to repel their attacks. We did a great job. But most interestingly, he said they were a bit annoying with all the attacks, so I decided to make a better attack. Pogacar smiled. I wouldn't rule it out that to a degree Pogacar was doing that just to show Jorgenson who's boss. Like I say, he was almost irritated by those attacks. It was like a fly buzzing around his head. It was just more irritating to him than anything. And he definitely seems to have hit the point where he was so fed up of those attacks that he just decided to hit them with a super one of his own. But maybe he just couldn't resist following Jorgenson's will. His ego just wouldn't let Jorgenson go up the road. But the question is, what has caused all of this chaos, all of this disruption and this tension between UAE and Visma Lease a Bike, and specifically Pog and Jorgenson? Well, I don't think we really have to look that far back or that deeply to understand why. Of course, we know that Jorgenson is Jonas's #1 domestique, his #1 lieutenant in the mountains. He's extremely loyal to Jonas. We saw that at last year's tour, clearly. But really, it could be even simpler than that. If you cast your mind back to just 1 year ago in the Tour de France 2024 on stage 19 at Isola 2000, Jorgenson was the last surviving guy in the breakaway, just a few minutes away from securing a famous stage victory. But having been content with winning the yellow jersey, getting rid of Jonas, no, Pogacar came storming past him to take the stage. But as we can see from looking at this interview here with Jorgenson from the time, he was clearly super annoyed about it.
Just disappointing more than anything. But then, to be honest, once I heard Pogacar was coming in the last 3K, I had a bad feeling, obviously. And then, when he passed me, I mentally, I knew even if I stayed in his wheel, he would beat me. So, it's just disappointing for the moment.
So I think it's quite simply that, right? Pog took everything from him last year. He took the yellow jersey they'd been working for. He even took the stage win that Jorgenson had worked so hard for. So I think that explains it from Jorgenson's perspective. He just doesn't like Pog after the hurt he's inflicted on him over the last year or two. But from Pog's perspective, why is he pushing back now? Well, I think there's a couple of really important factors that we need to consider. First and foremost, we know that João Almeida, his #1 domestique, especially in the mountains, suffered a brutal crash just a few days ago, resulting in a fractured rib that's meant he's had to pull out of the tour, leaving Pog with only 7 riders to help police the peloton and keep the brakes in order. In addition to that, we also know that one of his key climbing domestiques Pavel Sivakov has been really not well. Apparently he's sick, he's been performing really badly the last few days. So is he feeling irritated because he's outnumbered, outgunned, and worried about being out-hit by Visma when we get to the mountains? He certainly seemed a bit more irritated in interviews over the last few days, if you ask me. So what do you guys think? Is there tension building between Tadej and Matteo? Are we watching a Tour rivalry unfold in real time? Or is Pogacar even bothered in the slightest at all? Let me know what you think down below. Make sure you like, comment, most importantly subscribe, and catch you on the next one.